What's up? We're back
We
after
are.
a whole 5 minutes of
It was long.
inactivity.
I didn't think I could make it. I was
No.
sitting here thinking, how am I going to live until the next episode of Keystroke Medium?
Speaking of the next episode, we are back again here at Keystroke Medium with the right stuff, episode number 12. Can you believe it?
Number 12.
This episode, we're going to talk about the 3 things every writer needs to avoid
At all costs.
at all costs. So, the last episode we just recorded live. If you're watching live, if you're listening in the Facebook or in the podcast feed, it's the one that was just before this one, episode 11, and also the one coincidentally before episode 13, which if you're listening live isn't there yet, and if you're listening on the podcast feed,
What was the
right there.
title of
I don't even know what it is yet.
What was the title of number 5? Just for our current readers or listeners who just popped in.
You mean number 12?
Number 5, the one before this one.
Yeah, that's number 12. That is the 5 things that we should be doing to ensure writer success. 5 things you should do to ensure your success as a writer.
That led into the current episode we're doing of the 3 things that you should avoid at all costs.
Right,
Be
exactly.
successful as a writer.
That was not confusing
No,
at all.
I think
So-
it's good. I think it's good to be confusing as
keep-
much as possible.
we keep our listeners and viewers on their toes.
Yeah. It's
So-
like a Sudoku puzzle.
Oh, I hate Sudoku puzzles. I can't
But
do
it
those.
makes you think and prevents mental degeneration. So
No, it doesn't. It makes me it like drives me crazy. I believe that I have aneurysms in my brain every
It's
time I sit down and do
it's breaking my face. There you go.
9, 1. I can't do it.
Yeah. So, but in all seriousness, anybody who wants to be smarter should obviously watch Keystroke Medium, and anybody who wants to succeed as a writer should avoid doing these 3 things. So, there is a bonus, and last time we went 3, 2, 1, and
No, last time we went 4, 5, 3, 2, 1.
right. So
We went from the back to the front.
We
This
did
time
do
I
that.
think we're going to go from the front to the back.
So on my list, the bonus is number 4, and I don't want to start with the bonus. I want to start with number 3. So
No, the bonus has to come last.
okay, bonus last. I guess to make this sound like more sense, to make me crazy to all of our viewers, is that I wrote these out in 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we decided we would do a countdown. So
Right.
number 3 is this is something you should avoid, and it's going to sound pretty simple, but it really will undermine anything good you've done with your writing, any success you've had. If you do this, it's going to really jack you up. So number 3 is respond to negative reviews.
Right. We talked about this, not this specific topic, but connecting and talking with your readers in the last episode. And this falls in line with that, but it takes it in a different direction. In the last episode, we talked about that you want to be available to your readers. You want to interact with them. You want to talk with them, talk about your book, talk about their lives, talk about your lives in general. What you don't want to do is take that to a level where you're creating a hostile environment between you and a reader. So reviews as an indie author is something that you absolutely need and you should want. But
you're going to get some negative reviews.
You are going to get negative reviews, and the best thing that you could do as an author is not respond to those reviews.
Game of Thrones has thousands and thousands of negative reviews, but of course they also got 50,000 positive. But
Right. Every author has bad reviews. Don't take it personally, because there was a Goodreads going around. It was a thread where this author responded to negative reviews, and he was defending his book, which
makes you look kind of like a chump.
Even
if you're right.
I understand why he wants to defend his work. He spent so much time, effort, energy into creating this baby that is his baby, and somebody didn't like it, and they posted as much on his Goodreads in a review, and he responded to those reviews, and he became more and more angry and agitated and, dare I say, hateful in the comments, where I'm paraphrasing, but basically he got to the point where he was personally attacking
Right.
the reviewer. And that's going to do one of two things. It's actually going to do two things. It's going to show that you are not ready to go into this profession because you can't handle criticism.
Not professional. You're not being mature and adult. You know,
in any career you go into, you have to be able to handle criticism. If you can't handle criticism, then
I can't think of a job where you're going to work and you're not going to deal with at least one unpleasant person from time to time.
Yep.
And I think people should also know, and we talked on our show, we have readers and we have writers and we have people that are brand new, people that are doing it like pros. But if you're new to this, because I've actually met several people that are just starting out in the indie thing lately on social media, and if you're just starting out, the first time you see somebody who's just they call them a troll, somebody who really has probably never read the book, doesn't care about books, is just strictly there to just be me.
Right.
And they would like nothing more than to bait you into a conversation and make you look like a raving lunatic.
Right. And that's the point too, is that the second thing I was going to add on to that point was not only it shows that you're not a professional by not being able to handle criticism, but it also is going to turn off other potential readers to your work, because then it just shows that you're a whiny baby, and people don't like that. They don't like to see you attacking other people. They don't want to see you defend every little thing in your book. If something needs defended that badly, I have seen other readers jump on there and kind of say, they shut the troll down.
Right.
But that's not for you. That's not your place. Your place is to write your book, the best book that you can, get it out there. Don't worry about the negative reviews. Don't worry about the trolls that are going to hate your book, because there are going to be hateful people. I've got 2-star reviews. I want to say that I've got at least 1-star review.
I've got one.
I've read them. Some of them I've taken to heart, but only when it comes to like fixing typos or something like that. Then that's very helpful. But if it's just people that say, "Oh, we don't like this book because this and this and this," okay, I'm not trying to please everyone with my book. You don't like it.
You can learn. I know that on the SVP podcast recently, they were talking a lot about how to mine reviews for useful information, because there is some useful information on there.
Right.
To kind of see who your readers are, kind of what they're looking for, what they liked and didn't like. And so that's probably, we could talk about that in another thing, but so there is good things. Reviews can be helpful, but if you're a writer for very long, you're going to get one that just is just a kick in the nuts.
Yeah.
And, and like I got one, I think, and it just drives me crazy, because I think on Barnes & Noble, I just have one review on that platform, because I only recently started publishing my books there. Yeah, it's a 1-star review, and all it says is nope.
It's very helpful.
Yeah, and I did learn that there was actually a rash of people who were using book review sites as like a type of kind of underground Facebook, where they would communicate on book reviews. So they'd be like, "Hey, what are you doing today?" And the next person would in a book review, "Oh, I'm going to go get hammered," And so those would all be in your book reviews, and they make no sense, and some of them are kind of mean or inappropriate.
Right.
I think most platforms have dragged those down. So I don't look at my views like I used to. I think I have 64 on Dragon Badge and like 27 on Enemy of Man, and they're hard to get. I don't work for reviews at all. I quit a long time ago. I used to do, when I first started, best practice was find people who like books like your books and then offer to send them a free ARC copy and invite them to leave an honest review. Well, that's just a lot of work. I'd rather be writing, and I don't do it. So all of my reviews, except for maybe the first 3 or 4 where I'd sent out some notices I wanted reviews, short of just saying on my website, "Hey, I'd love to have a review," I do not solicit anybody for reviews. I don't offer anything special except for maybe joining my reading list. You can get an early copy or something.
Well, yeah.
But so that's reviews.
Just to recap on that real quick, respond to good reviews all you want. If you want to say thank you, or you want to say, "Hey, I appreciate you reading my book. Thank you very much for leading the review," whatever, do that. Definitely connect with your reader that way. That will make them feel a little bit. Yeah, and they'll email and say,
That's a good place to talk to them.
yeah. And I got an email from a reader the other day, and it was a, hey, I really, really loved your book, but your email list is broken. And I was like, oh crap. Well, all right, I'll have to fix that.
Yeah.
But it was very cool to hear from a reader. So interact all you want with the good ones. Forget about the bad ones. You don't need them. They're not worth your time.
Yeah.
So that takes us into number 2, or yeah, that's number 2. Either way you look at it.
This is my personal Achilles heel. Josh is laughing. He's like, "You dummy."
So I'm gonna let. It's funny because the number 2 thing you should avoid at all costs to be a successful writer is. I'm going to say this. I'm going to try to say this as succinctly as possible and easily as possible. Do not start
covering my face
projects to cover your writer's block on another project.
There you go. See, I covered my face.
If you have a project that you're going strong in and you have 40,000 words in this project, and then you get another idea, and then you're like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to go write that. And then you go write that for a little while. Then you lose your steam on that. And then you get another idea and you say, oh, I want to go finish what you're writing.
Right.
And it's like, I work on multiple projects at once. That's not what I'm saying. If you have the capacity to work on 2 or 3 or 4 projects at a time, by all means.
It definitely can be done. I've done that, but there is a difference. Maybe the line's a little bit hazy between this is how I produce things, and right. I want to do these 2 projects. They work well together. Like, for example, I have written my work in progress science fiction and a side story in the same universe that I was going to give to my readers on my email list. That's okay. Or like for a while I was writing, like I would write in the morning, but by the evening I was kind of tired. And so I would beat out a story in a different genre that I would work on later.
Absolutely.
And, I think that might be okay. But the reason we're laughing is Josh and I have talked a lot about, I start new projects. Like every time I wake up, I write it down. Like, that's a best-selling novel right there. I got to write this out. And, it goes back to the idea that ideas are not really, ideas are great. It's important to have good ideas, but unless they're vetted and developed and followed through on, they really mean nothing. So we're all creative people. Probably most people on this side are creative in one way or another. You're going to have lots of great ideas, but you're going to have to, if you want to be, my notes on there is not just to be commercially successful. If you just want to be a successful artist, sooner or later, you got to finish something. You can't be like Scott Moon and say, I think I'm going to start 7 projects at once and keep a spreadsheet on each of them, because that would be a great idea.
Right. And that's absolutely true. You have to finish what you write. Even if that ending is completely horrible, you need to finish it. Because I'll tell you, there is nothing. A lot of people start new projects and they get super excited about them, and that energy sticks with them, for the first couple of weeks while they're writing. But I tell you what, it's nothing compared to typing the end on a story, because I like the rush of starting a new project. I just started a new one this week. And I'm going to be
planning for a while, and it's going to be awesome.
I have been planning this book for almost a year and a half. Now I'm getting into kind of the meat and potatoes of the book and now outlining it out and developing the characters. I'm taking it slow because I want it to be a whole, complete work, and I want it to be a fantastic story. And I'm planning it that way, but I'm going to finish it. I'm not, and that's the thing is, we're not saying that if you're writing a story and it turns out that it just doesn't work, it's not gonna work the way you have it written. We're not saying just to finish it, but don't stop a project just because you're excited about another project.
Right.
Put that project in the to be written file, and if you get an idea for that project, open up that project, add your idea, and then close it out again.
Right. Like maybe we set a timer, say, I'm going to make notes on this project, this great idea for 15 minutes or 30 minutes. or maybe just today I'm around this project, but then I'm putting it away and getting back. You can lose momentum very quickly.
Right.
And finishing is part of the process. Starting is part of the process. A lot of people don't write because they're like, I can't think of what to write. So that's a hurdle.
Right.
Once you're beyond that hurdle, the hurdle becomes, I can't finish. And it's kind of like, go back to one of our fitness analogies. It's kind of like you want to win a bench press competition, but you always stop right before the heavy, because you do like 5 reps and the last 2 are really hard. And you're like, well, I'm just not going to do those 2.
Yep.
I'm just going to go do shoulder raises instead because those last 2 reps are too hard. Well, you're never going to get as strong as you could be if you don't finish the set. So,
and one of the tools that I've found that help keep on track, and let me just preface this by saying I started this new project. I still have Shadows of Neverland to finish, but after 6 months of working on the project, I've hit several road bumps that I just need to take some time off from to let them iron out. So that project it's still going to get completed. I still have another book to write in that series, but
there is a time when that is absolutely the right call. And when you're working on something and you're just getting so much resistance, you're definitely way past the point of diminishing returns.
Right.
And sometimes you need to you need some separation from it.
Some breathing room.
Right.
But this other book that I'm working on, I didn't start. I said I've been working on it for 1.5 years already. A lot of that work has been done in a notebook, hand and paper.
Yeah.
Because it's easy. It doesn't become real until you type it out. And it also doesn't take away from the time that I'm trying to work on this other project. So now that I'm in this project, I have my notebook open, I'm writing in my Scrivener file, I'm beating everything out. And I have all this material to work from, where if you just start from a 0-page document because you have an idea, you may get 3 or 4 pages in before you realize your idea is nothing but that. You have to flesh your concept and your idea into a full story to make a viable product. And with all these notes and everything that I have for this project that I'm working on now, the words are coming. They're flowing. Yeah. They're there.
There's several people who talked about writing on paper involves a different mental process, and it's definitely a good tool that not everybody uses nowadays.
Right. So definitely, we say starting new projects is something you should avoid. But to clarify, starting new projects just because you have an idea or because you're having just
because it's more fun,
because it's more fun than writing on
doing the hard work. Yeah.
Don't do that. Write as hard, spend as much time as you can fixing your problem. If you've got to spend a couple of weeks trying to fix the problem in your current project, do that. It's not a race. You're not trying to beat anybody to the finish line. It's just you and the computer and the paper and the story. Take a couple of weeks and figure it out. And you know what? If you can't get it figured out, if you don't have any other recourse but to just stare at a blank screen for 3 or 4 weeks, start something else or go to a different part of that project and work.
Sometimes you get your butt in the chair and you'd be surprised how well it flows. You ever have one of those days where you're like, oh, I feel like writing, but once you sit down, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I had my best writing day ever.
Yeah, I sit down. I've been starting to get up early in the mornings to write. So usually about 5:30 in the morning, I wake up to sit down in front of the computer. And I am not a morning person at all. But I have a cup of coffee and I sit down in front of the computer and I sip on that cup of coffee while I'm looking over my book, while I'm looking over the project. And I'm not really reading it, just kind of overviewing. And by the time I've got that first cup of coffee down and I've got my second cup of coffee, I'm ready to start kind of pecking away and trying to build something, and it comes out.
Yep, I agree.
So if you want to start multiple projects, do it. Don't just not start projects just because we're telling you not to, but do it for the right reasons.
It would be good to have a plan and maybe some rules of the road, even if they're loose rules of the road.
Right.
to how you're going to do it, rather than just, if you just have all the time in the world and you want to flounder around at semi-random writing process, knock yourself out.
Right.
If you're like most writers and you're working 2 or 3 jobs or have a family you got to take care of, or both, it's probably best to set some limits on how many projects you're going to have.
Right.
So number 1, 3 things you should avoid at all costs if you want to be a successful writer. Number 1 is more than 1 hour a day on all social media combined. Now, a lot of people just clicked off. I think they just bounced right off our website.
They just left.
Yeah.
And
everybody knows, don't you think?
What, that everybody
knows that this is time for writers.
Oh yeah. Like, I know, even like, it's funny, even when I scroll through Facebook on my phone, I'm like, this is a complete waste of time. I should stop this. And then I keep scrolling and I keep scrolling. But we talked in the last episode about social media and building a platform and connecting with your readers, which is you must do this if you're going to be a successful indie author in today's atmosphere of writing. You have to connect with your readers, but don't make that such a effort that you're not getting any writing time done.
Right.
I know that I can sit down in front of the computer and click on Facebook and scroll through Facebook for 45 minutes and just sit there and scroll. And then I click another link and I go over here and then I go to Amazon and I look through things and I shut that down. Get your writing done first. Or give yourself a schedule. You want to get online and check your Facebook for 10 minutes, set a timer, check your Facebook, get off, start writing.
Yeah.
Because it will eat up your time. You'll sit down to write and you'll say, I'm just going to get on Facebook here pretty quick. You get on Facebook and next thing you know, it's been an hour or so and you haven't done any writing, and scrolling through Facebook is not going to make you a successful author. No,
it's not. It feels good and it's fun. And I think it's definitely a good place to be social, especially for writers who work in a closet.
My show was going to be in a closet today too if my internet provider would have worked. So
yeah. So don't knock the closet. That's actually a very good place to minimize things down. But the social media stuff, it feels good. You can connect with good people, just for not for writing. Some of that social media might be for just non-writing related stuff, but for writing, you also want to contact with other people interested in what you're interested in, building your brand and all that stuff. So on the social media idea is you have to realize maybe make a list of how many different social media platforms you want to deal with. Usually Facebook, maybe Instagram, maybe Twitter. And keep in mind on Facebook, you have your Facebook home profile. You can have a business page and you can have groups, and they're all different. The big thing is on your profile, you can tag people and do stuff like that. On your business page, you can track a lot of your statistics and pay for promoted ads and things like that.
Right.
So if you're really, at some point, you probably will need a page. But then groups, it seems like groups are very popular, and we've had good luck with just starting groups rather than a page and some of that stuff. So we've done all 3, but it needs to be somewhat structured.
Yes.
And
I would be willing to say that if you need to have a schedule regardless. I think the biggest excuse I hear from people who want to be successful writers and aren't is that they don't have time to write. And I can guarantee you can sit down with any one of those people and say, all right, how much time did you spend on Facebook today? Or how much time did you spend?
How many shows do you follow on television?
Yeah.
Every week?
How much Netflix did you watch? How much Candy Crush did you play today? Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you that they will say, oh, I played a couple hours of Candy Crush today.
Candy Crush is the bomb.
It is.
I've never played it.
I had to stop.
Yeah.
But the point is, there is time in the day. For those of you that don't know, we both work full-time jobs. Scott also works. He has 3 days off. 2 of those 3 days that he has off, he works 8 hours a day at a part-time.
Yeah.
And sometimes even after that, he works more part-times. So if Scott has the time to write, working basically 3 jobs.
Yeah.
Somebody who just works 40 hours a week has no excuse. Children, marriage, family, all, you have no excuse. If you want
can
to
always find time to write, even if, and the thing too is if you find 30 minutes of quality writing time,
Yep.
Is probably even better than my 3 hours a day I get of 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there,
Right.
2 minutes in here, 1 minute in my car while I was parked, and my phone and stuff. And yeah, I try for 3 hours of writing a day. That includes writing or editing. And for a while, I was logging craft or writing 1 hour a day and social media marketing 1 hour a day. But now I only track writing because the other stuff, it made me feel like there's 2 things before I forget is it makes the social media and tracking things like I tend to do, they make you feel like you're succeeding when you're not. And maybe they are useful under the right circumstances.
Yes.
But it's an easy way to let off the pressure of success. You need to be hungry. You need some pressure. And if you said, well, you know, I didn't write all week, but I spent 72 hours on Facebook and I met a lot of people in Indonesia who definitely want to read my thrillers.
Yep.
And actually, the first person I ever met on Blab was an Indonesian. He was very helpful. So that's a different story. And then the other thing is earlier we were talking about the social media thing. I'm a bit of a pleaser. And so I get on Facebook and I see 50 notifications of people who have liked or commented on my tabs. And I feel like I have to open and address every one of those. It's like email.
Right.
And that's where the time drag starts.
Well, and that's the thing too, is you talk about having a specific number of minutes in the day to write, whether it's 30 minutes or 60 minutes or 90 minutes or whatever you have. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the smaller amount of time that you have to deal with in a day affects how much time that you need to put into social media. If you're a full-time author and you can do this all week, then maybe you're gonna dedicate an hour a day to social media and marketing and whatever, because mm-hmm. that's such a minor fraction of the actual time that you're going to spend writing. But if you're not a full-time writer and you only get, say, an hour a day where you can put your butt in the seat, you can sit in front of the computer and type on your story, but you also need to market, if that's something that you need to do, you need to block out that time. Yep. So if you get an hour,
you should have more writing than social media.
I would say that for every hour that you have of writing time, but in chair time, 10% of that, and only 10% of that, should be used for social media. So if you have an hour, well, it's actually a little bit more percentage, but if you have an hour of writing, do 10 minutes of social media.
Right.
And that's not exactly 10%, I think, but you get the idea.
We need to get a math co-host for that. I mean, you could, but the point is have some, if you keep it simple, more writing than social media.
Right.
If you do, you could make it 25% and say 15 minutes. If I write for an hour, I can have 15 minutes of social media time. I could save it up for the end of the day.
Right.
Or whatever, and those types of things. Man, there's so many good things about that, and people that love to write. I love to write, and I find myself, and it's not like we're blaming or saying, look at you, dummy, you can't write because you do too much social media. It's a natural thing. Writing is hard work. Writing is basically going to school in your underwear because everybody gets exposing yourself to everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it.
And so writing is hard because not only do you got to write it, but then you got to go, hey, I just wrote my innermost thoughts on paper and everybody should read this. Right. And I hope my mom reads this horror/sex scene I just wrote and doesn't think I'm disowned or tell me I'm adopted now or something, So there's writing is hard in ways people don't expect. And it is perfectly natural to look for an excuse or a way out where you say, you know what, it'd be easier if I just got on Facebook. Yeah. And these are my friends, and I need to spend time with them.
I need to market. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think we beat that one kind of to death, and in several other videos. And so that's 3 things that you should avoid at all costs to be a successful writer.
And the last thing on Facebook is we do have some fantastic social media met friends. So just find a place for it. Do you want to do the bonus?
Yeah, let's do the bonus.
Okay. Go
So our bonus thing to avoid is reading too much about writing instead of writing. Basically, doing all these things instead of writing, you shouldn't do. You should just write first. So this whole video could be summed up in just write and don't do these other things. But we were talking in the last video about, or in the last episode 11, where we talked about the 5 things you should do to ensure your success as a writer. One of those things was you need to learn about writing. You need to read books about the craft of writing, whether it's plot and structure or character arcs or figuring out what things that you need to make a genre fiction book. You need to know those things. You can't just start out writing a book and throwing it together without having some knowledge of how to make that book work, and how very successful writers have done that.
Right. And just go ahead.
The crux to that is you can spend too much time learning how to write and then not writing. If you're spending all of your time looking for books on writing, and there are plenty of them out there.
Oh yeah, they're good.
And then you read them, and then you don't ever write.
Right.
All those books that are teaching you how to write are not doing you any good because you're not writing.
That's the key. You have to take that and use it. It's just like, could you become an architect without going to school? No. Or let's go back to being a doctor. You're going to be a doctor. You could read books on medical stuff. You could become an internet expert about all things medical by watching YouTube videos.
I got my PhD from WebMD.
Right. But the thing is you have to apply it, and you will never learn it as well until you apply it. The whole point is to actually do the writing. So I think that there's 2 parts to that. Yes, you must study the craft, learn from people that have worked hard at it, but then you need to apply it. And the same rule applies to that as the social media. You should spend more time writing than reading about writing. You should spend more time writing than doing Facebook.
Yep.
Keep it in perspective.
I agree.
That's all I got to say about that, like Forrest Gump.
I agree. Well, this is actually going to be one of our shorter episodes, but I think we should recap a little bit before we let you go. This episode is all what not to do to be a successful writer, and there are many more things you shouldn't do to be a successful writer, but we're not going to cover this episodes.
These are 3 things that are
just the 3 things that we found during our journey in becoming writers, in becoming successful. Don't let social media take over all of your time. Don't start new projects just because you're excited about it and you think you can finish that before this one that you're working on, and it's easier and it's more shiny. Stick with the projects you're working on.
It's one of Heinlein's rules. Finish what you write.
Finish what you write. And what we started with at the top of the show was don't respond to negative reviews. When we're talking about interacting with readers, talk to the ones that leave you good reviews. Exchange thoughts and ideas with people that bring you up, that give you positive feedback. The people that get on there and say your book sucks and I hate it, well, okay, thanks.
Right.
Don't get into
if they give you constructive criticism, listen to it.
Right.
But don't get your emotions, your feelings hurt because somebody called you names.
Right.
Said this person's a terrible hack writer. Blah 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 blah. That's when you can tell the difference when somebody's insulting you and when they are actually having a legitimate criticism of what they see in your writing.
Absolutely.
So all right.
Just like the last episode, if you're going to be a writer and you're going to be successful, the one thing you need to do is write, and write consistently and write well.
Yep. So I think whoever watches this, it would be most beneficial if they watch both episodes. Episode 11 was 5 things you should be doing to ensure writing success. And episode 12 is 3 things you should avoid at all costs to ensure writing success.
Plus the bonus. Don't forget about the bonus.
And the bonus. Basically, this is just for Scott. Stop doing that where you read too many books about writing and start too many projects. So if I have some soulmates out there doing the same thing, we'll start a separate support group.
Yeah. I am Scott, and I refuse to start new projects.
Yeah, I will not start a new project until I think of one.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody that listened to the show, watch the show. If you're watching it on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe. If you're listening to us on Podbeam, definitely subscribe. We're going to be on iTunes hopefully this week. We'll get our feed transferred over. It's June 27th as we're recording this episode. So hopefully this week we'll have our shows migrated over to iTunes. And we're going to be doing the show on Mondays now. If you're interested in watching the live show, Mondays at 11 is going to be when we're doing our live show from now on. But thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. As always, for my partner sitting across town, or whichever way you see him on the feed, it's fantastic sci-fi author Scott Moon. I'm Josh Hayes. Together we're Keystroke Medium. This has been The Right Stuff, and we'll see you guys later.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you coming.